Everybody, and welcome into the All-NBA show powered by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com/All-NBA. I'm your host, Adam Mares. I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Tim Legler. We got another day off before flying out to call the Christmas Day games. How you doing, Legs?
I'm doing great. You want to hear a real quick personal furniture delivery story to start us off here? So we're getting new furniture for our living room.
Okay.
And so it's set up for today delivery, and they sent me the window yesterday. It was like between 2:45 and 5:45 p.m. So I was like, perfect. Knock out my work and all that, and I'll just be sitting here waiting on these guys to show up. Then I get a text message at 8 o'clock this morning saying they're 15 minutes away.
Oh man.
Okay, and we're like, I'm in the process of like getting my son ready to go to school, and like, so and I had someone coming over to help me move my current furniture because I'm actually donating it. Like, was gonna move it, help me move it and stuff. So now I'm like, oh my God, these guys are going to be here. So I scramble. My wife takes my son to school. I scramble. I literally carry all these pieces of a giant sectional sofa by myself. I get them out of my house. I get them outside and just going to like, okay, I just put them in the driveway so these guys can deliver the new stuff. And then the guy shows up and he gets out of the truck and he goes, oh, my bad. I don't have your furniture on the truck. We're not supposed to come till later this afternoon.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So that was how my morning started, man. So
how do you handle this situation?
Coming back later.
Yeah. What are you like in this moment? You know, because it's this delivery truck driver. You know, he's confused. What's happening with you? Is it a fight?
I'm going to be honest with you, man. I've changed a lot. Okay. And here's how. It's not because I've gotten older and I've mellowed, because everybody that knows me really well knows I run hot.
Yeah.
But I'm so used to every single layer of the service industry in this country being absolute disgrace that I expect it. Like, I order food now at a restaurant. I expect it to be wrong. I expect to, we got takeout the other night and I made a mistake. I didn't check the bag before I got home and there was like 3 things missing. Like, I'm just used to it.
Yeah.
So I almost anticipated like there'd be some sort of issue when I walked outside to meet the guy. So I kind of it's almost more now I'm resigned to this stuff, Adam. And I just kind of just shake my head and accept it and go back in the house meekly and just let this guy figure his life out and come back over this afternoon with the right furniture after I scrambled. And now there's basically a sofa and tables sitting in my driveway that people could go and just hang out on if they want to.
This is the year of resignation for Tim Legler, because first of all, it's the right way to be. You know, that is the right way to go through life, of just, okay, well, that's what are you going to do about it? But it's also the way you approach your football team, I feel.
Well, that's now listen, I'll tell you something. I'm not so resigned about that. I run hot with that still. I can't tell you how the anger that was in me for about 4 straight weeks at this point in the year. But yeah, now I am. Yeah, now I'm like, and it's, you know what stinks, man? It's like, it's football Sundays and Thursdays and every other night that NFL's on right now. I don't have the same juice, man. It takes something from your life when your team is bad, man. It really does. You know, imagine if the Nuggets were like going to be a 20-win team.
Can't imagine
it changes your day, man. It just
totally does.
You know, right? So that's why you're spoiled, man. The Broncos are great. The Nuggets are great. Avalanche.
I was going to say, do you even know about my Avalanche? That's the best team in Denver.
But I notice you always leave the Rockies out of it. But that's
It's not baseball season. That's never baseball season for the Rockies, unfortunately. A lot of people are like you, Legs, where, they're looking for something now. Their football team, there's only a handful of football teams left that are in the hunt, so there's a lot of people that Christmas marks the day they kind of tune into the NBA. So we're going to catch you up on the Christmas Day slate, give you a little preview, talk about some storylines around the league. And then later on in the show, the NBA sets these games in the offseason, and they set them for mostly television ratings reasons, as they should. They want to get the marquee teams in there. But if we were in charge, if Legs and I were setting the schedule, what would these matchups be if we were trying to tell people these are the storylines to follow? We're going to do that later on in the show. But let's start out, Legs, with some layup lines, warm up the old legs here. And I'm going to start with my New Orleans Pelicans, who are on a 5-game win streak. Don't look now, Legs. A 5-game win streak after a win last night over the Dallas Mavericks, which is, by the way, a really impressive win. They have 8 wins on the season, 5 in a row. What do you make of this?
Wait a minute. First of all, are we claiming teams now too? We were just like, what's happening right now, James? I mean, this guy's just going to claim a team that goes on a heater?
I'm going to claim the entire Western Conference. It's my Western Conference.
Is this because of the Derek Queen thing? Is this why it's your team?
Hey, man, it's 100% that, actually,
okay,
to be honest with you.
Listen, you can't deny it, man. They're playing well. And look, they started this really before they started getting heavy production out of Zion, who's been very good the last 2 games. He actually has 53 points in his last 48 minutes in the last 2 games, after the first 2 just sort of being, sort of mediocre nights when he first came back. But they haven't lost since he came back. They're 4-0 since he came back from his injury, and they've won 5 straight now. So this is really impressive for the Pelicans. Like it. I don't know what all it means in the bigger picture. The key is him staying healthy and staying back. They do have young talent that you and I both like.
Right.
And you add him to the mix, who's this like sort of differentiating factor, because there's nothing else quite like him in the league, the way that he plays. And he's so dominant when he plays. It's good times, man. They've turned it around. They were 3. What were they? They were like
3-22.
They were 3-22, and now they've won 6 straight.
Yeah. And their season is such that I don't think there's a whole lot. Like you could talk yourself into the play-in. They're 5 games out of the 10 seed, and you try to climb from there. I mean, it's early enough in the season you can hope for anything. But I think more than anything, this is a team that does not have their draft pick. They gave it up to get Derek Queen. So they have no incentive to tank. And we talked about this yesterday. It's a lot about building a culture, putting a foundation in place for the coming years for you to kind of grow off of. And this is exactly what I think you look at when you're a team like this. You're getting contributions from your young guys, Derek Queen, Jeremiah Fears. You're getting contributions from guys you've invested in, Sadiq Bey, obviously Trey Murphy and Herb Jones, who are talked about more as trade pieces than anything. And then you get Zion Williamson, who's, I think it's underappreciated and understandably so. He's very healthy. He's been on some bad teams, but he is such a dominant force. That number you just said, more than a point per minute over the last 48 minutes, that is the type of impact player he can be, just not with any consistency for health reasons. But you kind of look up and you go, yeah, I'm not surprised, man. This team has talent. Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, Zion, all these young guys.
Yeah, they're actually also entertaining. They're fun. So add it all up. You got at least you got a team, as we head into this Christmas slate. You've got a team that's caught some fire here, and to see if they can continue it after the Christmas Day games.
My last note here, though, did you see there was a bunch of videos going viral last night from Smoothie King Center last night of the crowd. It was a sellout crowd. And these are the stories I love, Legs, because I like if a team's. It's tough to be a fan base. Nuggets spent a whole decade as a team that was in the basement in the Western Conference, and then when you get a little glimmer of hope and the fan base comes out, I don't know if you saw this, man. It was cool to see how poppin' that place was riding this 5-game win streak.
No, I saw, and you saw it the other night. They had the big comeback, and you could see it looked like a team that was 22-8. The way the crowd was reacting, rather than a team that's just been absolutely miserable, because they do have guys that are fun. And if you start winning a little bit, the crowd, they're gonna show up for that team, and they're gonna be into it. Just gotta win a little bit because they already have the excitement factor. So yeah, that was pretty cool for that fan base to stick with it. Because I tell you what, there's a handful of teams around the league right now that if you went and looked at their buildings and what it's like playing at home there, it's not much of a home court advantage for certain teams. The interest wanes real quickly in some cities. New Orleans, they've stayed with this team And now you start to see the returns.
Last thing I'll say, we'll move on. But if I could pick a duo to be good, like a front court duo, I love the big man game. Queen and Zion Williamson, if they were good, if they worked out, were healthy, and were able to find something, that would be so entertaining because they're both such unique bigs that it would make for an entertaining brand of basketball to be able to get to see extended look at. Hopefully that happens. Another story around the association last night. The Warriors in the third quarter were down 71-66, sputtering a little bit, couldn't get things going. This is against the Orlando Magic. And Draymond Green and Steve Kerr, head coach Steve Kerr, kind of got into a spat on the bench, yelling back and forth. Tempers flared, and Draymond Green left. He went back to the locker room after the game. Steve Kerr was asked about it. He said, we had it out a little bit. He made his decision to go back to the locker room to cool off. That's all I'm going to say about it. Everything is private. Draymond Green spoke on it and said, temper spilled over, and I thought it was best that I get out of there. I don't think it was a situation where it was going to get better. It was best to remove myself. We've seen this with Draymond for years. He can get heated in these moments. But what's noteworthy, and this has happened, I think, 2, 3, 4 times already this year, Draymond Green ejected or back to the locker room, and all of a sudden the Warriors go on a run. From that point on, they dominated the Magic and get a 23-point win. What do you make of this whole situation?
Well, a couple things. First of all, look, I'm not saying that fights don't occur. Sometimes arguments between players and coaches in the heat of the moment during timeouts. I certainly saw my share as a player. I can tell you this, though. I don't recall ever seeing a situation where a player in the midst of that, by his own free will, chooses to get up and walk to the locker room. Like, I've seen coaches throw guys basically off the bench, like, get the hell out of here. I don't want to see you. Get out of my sight. Just get out of here. And the guy gets up and leaves because basically that's, the coach. I've seen that happen in practice too. They've thrown guys out of practice before. They don't want them there anymore because they're being a disruption. I don't think I ever recalled as a player, seeing a player get into an argument with the coach and then just get up and go back to the locker room. And as far as we know, like, that was his own choice. And Steve Kerr basically even said that. Like, he just chose to go back there and cool off. Now, I think he came back out there around the start of the fourth quarter. And they asked Kerr, like, was any thought of putting it back in? He said, absolutely not. He was not going back in the game. He left. And that told me when he said that so quickly, no, absolutely not. He wasn't going back in. He left. That even pounded it home even more. Like, this guy made the choice to walk away from the team in the middle of a game that at that point, it's anybody's game. Now, they dominated them from that point on, but at that point, you're down 5. You don't know how this is going to go. And you get up and just kind of separate from the team. Yeah. It's really, really an unusual circumstance. And look, they always, of course, and then after the fact, everybody always says the same stuff. Oh, what are you going to do? Draymond, we need him to win. He's won a lot with us over the years. And you hear all that same stuff from Kerr, from Curry. If they asked Dunleavy about it, he'd say the same thing. It's always the same stuff, the same narrative about it, man. He just got ejected from the last game, 8 minutes in? Yeah. I mean, so you're talking about now a couple of games where, like, he's not around to help you determine the outcome. And by the way, they won both games. So it's not pretty. It's certainly not something you want to have play out in public like that, where every camera's catching it. You saw at one point Moses Moody steps up and turns and, like, gets in between them and basically is trying to get Draymond Green to calm down, and he couldn't control himself, and they just kept going back and forth. And Bill Kerr is a fiery guy, man. He can get like that at times. So this was really, like, I guess, the top end of what you would see between those two guys in a huddle, and very unusual to see a player then just go, well, you know what? I'm just going to go back to the locker room for a little while. It's very, very uncommon, man. Arguments are not uncommon. That reaction is. I thought it was kind of bizarre.
It is funny that it can be rebranded as part of, like, oh, did it galvanize the team? Or, hey, he went back to cool down. Like, it was almost like it was a wise move to remove yourself from the situation. But at the same time, I always look at these situations with Draymond Green the way you look at when a mover arrives without your couch, or when the when the food arrives with missing an item. I just look at it and say, you know what? I expect it now. But I am one of these people. I love Draymond Green as a player. I just think he's unbelievable, so needed, even in his age now. You could talk about maybe there's a little bit of drop-off, and it is interesting that there's been a handful of games so far this year he's exited and they've made runs. But I'm just such a Draymond believer, and also one of these people that says he seems to be who he is, and there's no way he's ever going to change. At this point, there's no way he's going to change.
I agree
and
with
the cost
that.
of doing business is sometimes he has to remove himself.
I agree with that, but I also think there's a whole lot of guys in this league that would have done the same thing, and they would have gotten suspended. You're walking away from the team in the middle of a game. That's what you're doing. It's not like it's a restroom break. Guys do that sometimes, but that's not what this was. This was somebody who was so over the top with their emotions and couldn't rein it back in that they decided the best thing to do. And maybe he was right. Maybe that was the best thing to do in the moment, because maybe it could have gotten even worse.
Yeah,
I guess maybe he was right in doing that, but to choose that as a player, to leave the team because of your own emotions, to go back to the locker room in the middle of a game, telling you, man, it's like, it's just not something that you see. They'll move on from it. There's no question in my mind. They'll move on, and the next game, it'll be as if it never happened. And they just plow ahead with, just another kind of, another like Draymond episode that they've dealt with, over the years. And it's just another one. I don't think it's going to be a lingering effect. They'll be past it, and he'll be out there on Christmas Day. No doubt about it.
On the other side, you got the Orlando Magic, who feel like they've had 3 seasons in one already, struggled out of the gate, lost 4 of their first 5, found a rhythm for a good stretch in the middle there where they look like, okay, they got it together, and they peaked at 13-8, and now they've lost 3 of their last 4, 5 of their last 8. Their only win in the last week and a half was against Utah in overtime, which is not exactly the most impressive win. So what do you make of the Orlando Magic's little skid that they are on now and sitting at 16-3 after we thought they were turning a corner?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's just one of those situations. I just need more of an extended period of time with their whole team, and they haven't really had it. Banchero missed time. Wagner's out. It's just not something where they've had really just give me a month where you've got both of those guys in Bane, and let's see what it looks like, because I think their defense is good enough to keep them in games or win games most nights. Question was going to be the flow of the offense. Bane has found his offense. He struggled early. He's kind of in rhythm now. He's putting up numbers, and now you got to get Banchero and Wagner out there at the same time. There are other young pieces that we like on this team. So I just think they're an incomplete grade. I think in a lot of teams would be happy probably to be 3 games over 500 with the amount of time that their star players have missed. So let's just give them time. Once Wagner gets back, and I'll be able to judge them once I see them for 10, 12, 15 games straight with those 3 guys out there.
It's also just possible that this run of losses that they've had recently, San Antonio, okay, that's a good team. New York twice, that's a good team. Denver on the road in Denver, that's a good team. And now Golden State, we know that they can be good teams in stretches. So it might just be a thing of this is the schedule. It evens out, and sometimes you go against some tough teams. We'll just have to wait and see. I'm rooting for the Orlando Magic to get healthy here and go on a run. Let's go into our Christmas Day storylines, though. And we have a slate of games now on Christmas that I actually think, Legs, I know we're doing the thing on later on in segment 2 where we talk about what the perfect slate would be. It's not perfect, but I actually think it's a really good one. First of all, you are in LA for Rockets Lakers later on in the game. That's the one you're calling, right?
Yes. 8 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, that's the prime time game. So I'm really excited about that. Hopefully, Luka's been day to day, so hopefully
he's going to play. He's almost certainly going to play. Before we went live, producer James was telling me there's some stat where star players miss Christmas Day least of any day on the calendar. So if you're remotely healthy and you're on Christmas night, you're going to play. But tell me about that game. What intrigues you about it?
Well, I think, listen, these are 2 teams that are in that mix, right? There's these 2. Obviously, you've got Denver, and then now I think San Antonio has emerged into that mix, man, of the teams that are trying to and Minnesota probably.
Minnesota for sure.
There's 5 teams that are fighting.
It's so good
to be that team that can go toe to toe with Oklahoma City at the end of the year. And these are 2 of those teams, man. And obviously you got the Durant LeBron thing. You don't know how many more times you're going to get Kevin Durant, LeBron James. So to be on a Christmas Day game with 2 teams that are going to be in that mix of teams trying to fight it out to the end, I'm excited about it.
So let's go through the list, though, because one of the things I asked you was let's just go through the top storylines of Christmas Day. A lot of people tune into Christmas Day. It's the first time they tune in, although this year head-to-head against the NFL, which will be an interesting thing. But what's the biggest storyline for you on this entire Christmas Day slate?
Well, I think one of the things that's kind of strange to me is Oklahoma City and San Antonio are
back again.
They're playing tonight.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not even see this on the calendar. Is this true?
Well,
what a horrible schedule.
That's what I'm saying. They just
what on earth?
They just played in the Emirates Cup.
Last
now
week.
They're going to play tonight. They're going to play tonight, and then they're going to play again on Christmas.
This was my number one storyline, and I didn't see that tonight. So I didn't even realize that's what it was. And this completely, I don't want to say ruins it, but it's certainly tonight. If both teams have to kind of take tonight as the least important one, wouldn't you think?
So let me ask you a question. Look, and I know, the league knew that Victor Wembanyama is a massive draw, right? But does this tell you that maybe the Spurs are like, I don't know. It's like it's caught people off guard, and now you're going to get this anticlimactic game tonight. They just turn out to play again on Christmas. It just takes the edge off of it. And that's why when you and I go over our perfect slate, like what it would look like if you could flex these games, and now let's create the best Christmas Day slate. That plays into my criteria.
I didn't even consider it, of course, because I thought this was the perfect game. I don't know what that means for tonight. In a weird way, if you're just about wins, maybe you think the Thunder take this game lighter and you go really hard, try to steal it. You get blown out on Christmas, you went 1-1. Like maybe that's how you approach it.
Yeah, but look, here's the thing. Oklahoma City just lost to them. So they don't want to lose twice in a row. Like they want to get this game tonight, but does that take the edge off it a little bit? And I'm trying to think. So the one on Christmas is in Oklahoma City. Tonight's in San Antonio, correct?
So we even get some travel going in between.
Yeah, so tonight's in San Antonio, I believe. It's a home and home situation. Okay. Because I got a weird situation coming up mid-January.
Right. Yep.
I've got two games back to back, same two teams in the same city.
You're calling in both of them?
Yeah, I've got Cleveland, Philly on Wednesday the 14th, Cleveland, Philly on Friday the 16th, both in Philly. Now, look, I'm not complaining because if I'm going to be stuck somewhere for like 4 days straight, Philly's great. Now, it's like, it's my second home, man. So I'm okay with that, but it is a weird quirk. Like this is not that. This is home and home. Each team gets a home game. With Oklahoma City, clearly, they deserve to play at home on Christmas. So they're giving them that game. But tonight, they got to go to San Antonio. So it is weird. They're going to play 3 times in a very short period of time, including once right before the big Christmas Day game. I'm not exactly sure how this played out that way, but
players like it, though, Legs.
Off it.
You know something weird about it? Players like it. I've asked enough players have been asked about these, like playing each other twice in a row. And it's like, it's like a playoff, you get a chance to read this or that. And maybe that's what this becomes. If you look at both teams, they did just play each other. So you have this bad blood. You play each other tonight and then you turn around 48 hours later and play again. There's a little bit more of a scout. It does have a little bit more of a strategic feel to it. Both coaches get to adjust to whatever happens tonight. And in that way, it could be compelling. And then on top of that, look, they just beat him in the cup. It was contentious. Wemby came out afterwards and talked about ethical basketball. So tonight carries a weight. You get a nice game tonight, a nice competitive game tonight. It might actually just elevate the stakes for Thursday on Christmas Day to where that game feels even more intense.
100% could. Another thing that could happen, though, could be reversed. What if San Antonio wins tonight?
Yeah. And
they've beaten them twice in a row, and now you go into that building on Christmas Day, you might get a 30-point game. You know what I mean? Oklahoma City has the ability, unlike any other team in the league, to turn up their defense to a level that typically leads to offense, and it could just like end you in a very short period of time. So, Look, I don't know what we're going to get. It's obviously a very intriguing matchup because Spurs are ahead of schedule, and they just beat them, and they're on this record-setting pace. And the Spurs kind of, put a little fly in that ointment. And now they're going to play back-to-back games. So to me, that was the first thing that jumped out. I was looking at these games, and I'm like, wait a second. They played a night too? That really surprised me. Because like you, I was not looking at that. I did not realize it until an hour ago when I was looking over the schedule tonight leading into Christmas. Because it's just about everybody in the league is playing tonight.
Well, the storyline for this one, in addition to that being the third time they'll play in 2 weeks, and there's a real rivalry there. And I think, to me, we're going to talk about perfect games. I'll go ahead and spoiler one. I think this one is a perfect game, schedule part aside, because you get First of all, elite defense in the NBA. You get the Spurs, who are just elite. You get the Thunder, that are one of the best defensive teams of all time, and you get to see that clash. You get Wembanyama versus Chet Holmgren, which has been a rivalry since they both came into the league. You get Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the reigning MVP, on the stage. And then these are just two young teams that have excelled very quickly in their, in their careers. So I look at it and say this is actually great storylines for people because both of these teams aren't going anywhere. This might be, Legs, when we look back at some of the iconic matchups of Christmas years past, you got like repeat matchups between iconic teams. This might be a matchup we see on Christmas several times between now and the next 5 years.
Yeah, no, you're right. And there's even and I didn't read it yet, but there's an article about this exact topic on ESPN.com today talking about this could shape the future for the next foreseeable future of the Western Conference. Wow. Of this particular matchup in these two teams, and what Wembanyama represents and what Oklahoma City's got going on with all this young talent. His guys, all those top guys are locked up, and their defense, and all that. So, I mean, obviously, we all expect Oklahoma City to be in this thing for quite a while, a number of years. And we kind of expected that at some point from San Antonio because of this unique talent that Wembanyama is. But I don't think anybody expected it to be this year that they would be there and potentially be good enough to be maybe a Western Conference finalist. I mean, I think that's kind of what they've elevated themselves to with the way they've played through the first third of the season.
What's yet another storyline for Christmas Day? What's your second most biggest storyline?
Well, I think a couple of rookies. I mean, you got some rookies, right? You're going to have Cooper Flagg playing. You're going to have Dylan Harper playing, like the top two picks of the draft, not playing each other, but they're both going to be out there. And, Cooper Flagg has been really, really, really good. Dallas is playing better. They lost their last couple, but they've been playing better overall over the last couple of weeks. And then Dylan Harper has been incredible. If he didn't have, De'Aaron Fox, Stephon Castle ahead of him, Dylan Harper might be starting and like he might be the guy you look at and go, yeah, absolutely, that's rookie of the year because he is a massive talent. What he does on the court is so easy. So that's another one for me. Top two picks in the draft. Sometimes those guys go to teams that aren't good enough to play on Christmas Day. Because maybe you're going to a team that won 15 games and they're not in the mix or people are interested in those teams. And so you don't see the top rookies a lot of times on Christmas, but you are in this case. So both of those guys get a chance to play.
It's kind of a young slate in general. I mean, you're going to have the Lakers and the Rockets who have some established guys, but they also have some young guys, especially on that Rockets group. Nuggets and Timberwolves have been around. They're not old, but they've been around for a while. But Spurs Thunder is young. Mavericks, to your point, are led by young. So there are some young. I like that take that there is some like a youth movement going on Christmas Day. Dylan Harper, this could be the break. There's always like a guy that breaks out on Christmas. He's a guy that's already been breaking out, but that he's not really, I don't think, like a headline story across the casual NBA fan. But it is possible that he could have a breakout here and become that. Yeah, definitely.
He's that good. I mean, and when he gets extended run in games, he looks like a polished pro. He looks like a guy that's been around for a long time. So he's really impressive. It's great to get that opportunity to see him play on Christmas.
All right, what's the next story?
All right, I got one for you. Here's one. How about this? Yeah. How about this? I don't know when the last time this happened, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe if I went back and looked at the last 5 years, this is more common than I thought. But it doesn't seem like that to me. Do you realize? There's only 2 Eastern Conference teams playing.
I do. Yeah.
Okay. Now, and look, I understand why.
Yeah.
Right. And then we're going to get into this when we go over our slate because it was difficult for me. But like for me personally, and I can tell what I'm about to say, you don't agree with because we've kind of talked about this a little bit. I find Philadelphia and Boston right now very entertaining.
Yeah.
And I don't know that you do. And there's not great rivalries in the NBA. We're talking about some that might be building. There's a couple that have a little bit more edge to them. The best one probably right now in the Eastern Conference still is Boston, Philly. Like when they get together, there's natural dislike of the cities, the fan bases. They don't
the
like
cities in particular. Yeah.
The cities, like it's, they have so many sports teams that are battling all the time, same divisions and all that. And so it's there. And they're actually, I know that you don't have Jason Tatum, and that takes a luster off it. That's why Boston's not playing on Christmas. And then Joel Embiid is like, he's the draw. You don't know when Joel Embiid's playing.
Tough to schedule them on Christmas.
But both of those teams they've overachieved, and they're playing a really fun brand, and they both still have legitimate stars in Tyrese Maxey and Jaylen Brown. So for me, that was kind of like, wow, I looked at the slate. I'm like, there's only 2 Eastern Conference seasons. Maybe James can look at some of the past Christmas Day slates. When's the last time there was only 2 teams from one or the other conference? And I'm sure it'd be the East, because the West has always been loaded for a long time now.
30 years.
I'm just curious, when does that happen for? Because typically you're going to have Boston. You're going to have Milwaukee has been on a lot of Christmas days. They're not in the mix this year. So you've only got these 2, and it's kind of interesting to me.
And to be honest with you, the Cavs, maybe not the most interesting team at the moment because of the struggle they're in. So even when you look at the Eastern Conference matchup, it's maybe the worst one on the slate. But to your point, I was, as we were doing in our next segment, predicting the next games, it was hard for me to come up with another Eastern Conference matchup. I was very tempted to go 1 East, 1 West, which we've done in the past before. You kind of split the difference, but it was hard for me. So I understand why they did it. And then your bigger point is when you're scheduling these for the longest, like they haven't been putting the Clippers on Christmas Day. And I think it's because you never know when Kawhi's going to play. So you can't schedule him as a marquee night anticipating that there's a good chance he's going to miss. But yes, I did notice it. What's your next one? I got a couple, but I'm curious what your next one is, just to see if we overlap on these.
Well, I think that, and it's going to come up. It's kind of a follow up to that, and we'll talk about this when we do our slate. Is the Pistons, I think, are slated here.
Yeah,
and I think listen, man, they're number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, and they were a great story last year.
Yeah,
they were a first round playoff loser, so maybe that's why they didn't think they command that. Maybe the powers that be don't think there's enough like entertainment value with this team. I would disagree.
I wondered that
because I love watching Cade Cunningham play, and this team is tough and they defend. And they showed last year, like with that battle that they had with the Knicks, that they were close. And now they come out and they've been the top story in the Eastern Conference to this point in the year. They've been slated. So that kind of, it's tied into the last point. But I think if you're looking at one team, you go, wow, how are they not there to beat the Pistons?
I don't know if I'd call it slighted, because they do set the schedule out in August, right? So, and even before that. So I don't know if we were talking about them anticipating them be the number 1 seed. Remember, they lose Malik Beasley. There were some questions around whether they were going to be able to stay in it. They've answered those questions, and now they're at the top of the standings. But nonetheless, I do agree that it does feel like a miss, because we just talked about the Spurs and the Thunder, the next team, the young teams that are coming up to set the stage for years to come. This could have been a great opportunity to set the stage for the Pistons as a team for years to come, because they feel like a team that is in phase 1 of a long-term process here. So it would have been a great storyline. Them being slighted, I kind of get it. What about this one? The Wolves started slow. Denver got them twice, once without Anthony Edwards, once before they had really started to go. The Wolves had the Denver Nuggets' number for the last 2 years before that, including knocking them out in a Game 7 in the playoffs. But they've gotten their legs under them now. And the reason the Wolves in the last couple of years had been able to beat Denver primarily was because Anthony Edwards really seemed to like going at Jamal Murray, guarding him on the other end, shutting him down, and then attacking him. But Jamal Murray is currently having the best season of his career. He had a monster game against Minnesota earlier. This one, to me, is a real rivalry. It's not, Lakers-Celtics that has all this history. But if you just talk about the last 3 years, they've met in the playoffs twice. They're in the same division. There's lots of storylines. Can Jamal Murray handle Anthony Edwards? Can Anthony Edwards continue to dominate Jamal Murray? I think that matchup is really fascinating. And that rivalry is really fascinating.
And you've been on record as saying, and nobody can, I think, make this statement with more validity than you, that this is Jamal Murray's best year.
It is by far.
And I agree. He's been incredible all year. And like that legitimate co-star running mate with Jokic, he's been there the entire season. Obviously feels good, is healthy. So yeah, this would be a big moment for him to be able to do that. Christmas Day game. This is the 10:30 game, right? This is the last game of the night on the current slate.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a what time? So what time? It's 10:30 Eastern, 8:30 tip Denver.
8:30 tip Denver time. 10:30 East Coast. Stay up, everybody.
It's a late tip, even local for those guys. So it's later than normal, but yeah, that's a big one. Anthony Edwards and Jamal Murray, like that battle on the perimeter, is going to be fascinating.
Yeah. I think it'll be a good one. Any other storylines here? Oh, one thing I'll tell you is, in the NBA, again, we talk about the schedule and complain about it so much. Nuggets that'll be the third game in 4 nights for the Nuggets and the Timberwolves, I believe. Timberwolves have the Knicks tonight. It's one of those things where I just wish third game in 4 nights. I know you hate talking about fatigue and all these things. Whatever you think about it, you're just a little more tired than you would have been if you got a little rest. And I just want all those teams on Christmas Day to be fully – I want 100% from all teams, and I do worry that both teams might be in a slog. That might be an ugly game.
Oh, that's an interesting one. I mean, I think hopefully the adrenaline of playing on Christmas. Yeah, and those guys are kind of lucky, at least the home team, because they get pretty much all day at home on Christmas Day with their families before they have to go to the arena. Like that you don't get that a lot of times on these Christmas Day games. Certainly the road teams don't, but even some of the home teams, it's like middle of the afternoon, you're going to the arena or something. Like these guys don't have to get there to probably like 6 o'clock, or probably 6:30. Yeah. They get all day at home with their families. Maybe that actually affects the Nuggets. Maybe that's a negative for Denver, man. Home, bigger meal,
a huge meal,
running around, like opening presents. Who knows?
If they're anything like me, it will affect them. All right, let me ask some quick hitters here. Who's going to have the biggest performance on Christmas? What player?
I went back and forth with a couple of guys over this, and I think it's going to come down to one of two people. It's either going to be Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or Jalen Brunson.
Okay.
One of those two guys is going to go for 40+, if not both.
If not both of them. Jalen Brunson, I think, is the safest pick here. It is a morning game, but Jalen Brunson always scores. It's in the Garden. He's a big game performer. So I think he's my pick, and I don't know that they're going to be able to handle him. So I think that's a really good one. But Shai, to your point, because my other option on this one was Luka, and Shai kind of always has big games. The only thing I'll say is that Spurs team in the Cup game really, I thought, gave them a problem. Not just him, but they gave their offense a problem, and they looked out of sync. He was forced to take a bunch of threes. He couldn't get into the paint, and I did wonder if the Spurs were going to be able to replicate that on Christmas Day.
That's one of the reasons I'm picking him to have a huge game, because I think the bounce back effect. He's that good. He's an MVP. He's not gonna be in a situation where he's gonna have a team have his number a little bit 2 times in a row. So I think he's gonna be determined. Like he might come out and try to get cooking early before the defense is really locked in on him, and maybe have a 15-point first quarter or something and set up his night. But I'm more confident. Between those two guys, I'm more confident in Brunson. And I have a feeling, too, Curry might have something special, too, in store for the Mavs.
That would be great, man. The Mavs, yeah, that would be great to get a Steph performance right there in the middle of the day. What about the best game? What's going to be the best game on Christmas?
It's hard. It's probably hard to – I'm going to go with my game, but it's hard to not say Spurs OKC based on what just happened in the Cup. But because of this weirdness of playing 2 times in a row, I don't know what that's going to do to the game. So I'm going to go with the game we're calling.
What Mike a homer Green pick.
And Richie Jefferson and myself, Houston, and the Lakers. That could be incredible, man. Big time performers, star power all over the place. The defense of the Rockets against the Lakers stars. That's going to be the best game of the day. Best finish.
This is the ultimate. There's homer picks for like players you like, teams you like, or whatever matchups. Then there's the homer for the one I'm going to be at calling. That's what's going to make it great. I'm going to go with Timberwolves Nuggets. I would have gone Spurs Thunder until you just pointed out to me that they're playing for a third time, playing tonight. And then that does take some of the wind out of the sail. So I have that written down, but I'm going to change it because I think Nuggets Timberwolves is just such a good rivalry. And earlier in the year, I thought, okay, the Nuggets have figured them out. New team, they figured them out. But now that the Wolves are playing well, I feel like it's a more true indication of where these two teams are in their rivalry. So I'm going to go with that one. And then the last one, most likely upset. If we just look at right now, the Cavs, the Spurs, the Mavericks, the Lakers, and the Timberwolves are underdogs heading into Christmas. So which one of those ones is most likely to get an upset win?
I hate to do this to you, but I'd have to go Minnesota.
I did too.
And a lot of it has to do, listen, I mean, you're not talking about a huge line. What is it, like 4?
Yeah,
4.5?
I think.
But they're playing so well right now.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like they're really playing well coming into this game. And there's just that familiarity with these teams. Hopefully we get some guys squaring off a little bit, man. Make it a little contentious, man. I want to see some chippiness on Christmas Day. Yeah. And get us ready. It kind of is the coming out party for the league in a lot of ways, because you have the first couple of weeks, which are so exciting because you've got new players in new places, new coaches, rookies. Like you get your first look at teams. And then, listen, man, it's the time of year, like the NFL and college football is, people love those sports and takes up a lot of the attention. And then you got this amazing 5-game slate on Christmas that kind of sets the tone for the rest of the NBA season. So those two teams, I think it could be very physical. I don't think they like each other very much. And there's not much of a line separating them. But if you're going to pick an upset, all 5 home teams are favored. I'm going to go Minnesota, the most likely to get a road win.
I think that's who I have too, just because I think it'll be a really good game. But by the way, you said playing well. Did you see Denver last night against Utah? Lowly Utah started the game 19-0. One of the biggest runs ever. They started 19-0. Utah had to call 2 timeouts trying to stop the bleeding, man. It was crazy. Let's take our first and only break. On the other side, we're just going to do a quick hitter before we send you off to your holiday where we talk about what games would we have picked if we were making the schedule right now. We'll do that on the other side. First, every Friday from 6 to 7:30, it's NBA Happy Hour on FanDuel, your pregame for the weekend. We're talking limited time specials you won't want to miss. Boosts, bonuses, surprises, all dropping in the app during Happy Hour. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app to see the week's specials. Then make your move before the shot clock expires at 7:30 Eastern. It's the perfect way to start your weekend. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Only on FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Must be 21 or older in present select states. For Kansas and affiliation with Kansas Star Casino or 18 plus and present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. Rewards are non-withdrawable. Restrictions apply, including bonus and token expiration, leg requirements, and max wager amounts. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rghelp.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. I also want to tell you guys about Shady Rays. You know that moment, the one where you realize you left your favorite pair of sunglasses at the beach, on the roof of your car, or at a gas station 3 states away? Well, I've been there too, but then you found Shady Rays. Change the game. They're sunglasses that are made for real life. They're seriously good-looking, polarized, durable, and not stupidly expensive. And here's the wild part. If you lose or break them, even on day one, Shady Rays will send you a brand new pair. No guilt trip, just replacements. So now you can actually wear your sunglasses without fear. On hikes, at concerts, on the boat, wherever, Shady Rays is eyewear that has your back. We've teamed up with Shady Rays to bring you an exclusive offer. Just head to shadyrays.com and use the code AC35 for 35% off of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Back here, final segment. Let's just quickly go over. So if we had control of the schedule and the ability to adjust it right now, what would the schedule look like? Do you want to go with we can do this like line by line, because we not only wanted to pick the games, we wanted to pick the slot that they would be in.
Yes.
So like you're setting up the perfect menu of NBA basketball for Christmas. So let's do the first game. It's the morning game, presumably an East Conference game.
Right.
But I mean, I don't know. You can get creative.
Yeah, no, you don't. So these times are slotted, man. Noon, 2:30, 5, 8, and 10:30.
Yeah.
Like that, they are what they are. You don't have much room for it. So you can't have a central time zone game that's tipping at like 11 local. So people are still eating eggs. They're trying to sit down for a basketball game. So you're right. It's East. And I'll say this. I struggled with it. I wrestled with it. I wanted to figure out a way to get Philly and Boston included, but I just couldn't. At the end of the day, I couldn't. So I also have 2 Eastern Conference teams on my slate.
That's it. That's only it. That's it. Okay.
But it's not the 2 that we are going to see at noon. It's going to be instead.
Of course.
And by the way, 4 of these 5 matchups I'm about to talk about have not played each other yet. And I love that.
Wow. Okay.
First one is, shockingly, Detroit at the Knicks. That would be my noon game.
Yeah, you kind of have to do it at the Garden, because I thought maybe you bring it to Detroit. They're the 1 seed, and Knicks are more established, but you got to do it at the Garden.
There's nothing like the Garden on Christmas Day. And really, honestly, most nights. It's the environment at the Garden when the Knicks are good. That's really hard to find that anywhere in the league. And particularly if you're watching on TV, like it's one of those arenas, it literally comes through the television. you can feel the energy.
Yeah.
A lot of celebs there and everything. People standing up around the court the whole time. So yeah, I think the Knicks need to host, even though Detroit has earned that right because they've had a better year to this point. That's the matchup, man. It's not Cavs-Knicks. Cavs-Knicks maybe going into the year was the game because they were the two teams you expected to be 1-2. Cavs have been disappointing. There's no other word for it. Yeah. Detroit's been good. And this is also, Adam, a follow-up to that great playoff series they had last year. And the fact that they haven't seen each other yet after that playoff series a year ago, that would make that so intriguing to me to see Pistons-Knicks.
It's exactly what I had. I feel like it's the most obvious one. Like, it was just a lock that both of us were going to have it. It's also just a good matchup. So, and then doing it at the Garden makes sense. All right, we both have the same one. What about the next game, the second game of the day? And by the way, I'm a West Coast guy. You're an East Coast guy. I will tell you this. My natural rhythm is that game's 10:30 or 10 o'clock or 10:30. That game always feels too early. I'm not usually, as a casual fan, I'm not dialed into that game if I'm in the Mountain Time Zone.
What, the first one of the day, you mean?
Yeah, it almost feels like
that's a
preview,
noon, I mean? That's noon Eastern. That's a 10 a.m. tip where you're at.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, that game is usually like on as I'm, moving around slowly, not really sitting down watching it. It's just kind of like on in the background.
Well, honestly, if you think about it, man, like being in all seriousness, like think of Christmas Day for most families, right? There's a lot going on in the house. So even the noon tip for people on the East Coast.
Yeah, it's
I don't know that people have settled into the day yet for the games.
Exactly.
I feel like that happens sometime between the 2:30 and the 5. Like halftime of the 2:30 game is when you've probably eaten, a lot of presents have been unwrapped. People are going to go grab a sofa. They're a little tired from getting up early. And now you're going to, what game is on? So I agree with that, but Detroit Knicks to me would be the best way to get that energy going at noon. Yeah. The next game's got to be a Central Time Zone game. It plays into this. It's 2:30. Now the current game they have is Spurs at OKC.
It's a good game.
It's a great game, except for the fact that they play tonight. So, so that changed my thinking on that. I don't want to see that 2 games in a row. So I switched that to Minnesota at San Antonio.
Okay.
I think that would be a great game. San Antonio has been one of the best stories in the league. Minnesota's playing really well right now. To get those two teams to go at it again in that mix of teams that are challenging Oklahoma City and Minnesota hot right now coming into the game. Give me that game at 2:30 Eastern.
The only thing about that game is I don't know that there's direct storylines. They're not in division. They haven't matched up in a playoffs. You could say, the two Frenchmen, Gobert and Wembanyama, I guess is the marquee. But it is 2 good teams. I do think that would be a very good game just on its value. So I like it. Central Time Zone. Okay, but now we get into, because it's those 2 middle games that are your marquee games. So here's where it really matters. What would be your third game?
So currently it's Dallas at Golden State as the 5 o'clock Eastern tip.
Yeah.
And I would switch that, and I would go with Denver at Oklahoma City.
Be a great one, man.
By the way, they haven't played yet, right?
They don't play till February 1st.
No, man, that's what I'm saying. So there's another situation. And by the way, the Minnesota San Antonio, I said that was going to be my second game. They have played once. Minnesota won that game by 13 back on November 30th. So they've only played once. So here's Denver OKC, the third game of the day. They haven't played yet. I'm dying to see these two teams play each other this year. Let's do it. 5 o'clock. It's one of the 2 marquee spots of the day, time-wise. Let me get Denver OKC in that third game.
And they had a 7-game series last year. They might match up in the playoffs this year. I think Christmas Day should be about, in part, about setting storylines for the upcoming playoffs. You can never know, but it is very possible that those teams match up. So I think it'd be good for the league to kind of establish that. I think you're nailing this so far. This is a pretty good schedule so far.
I'm actually going to keep now the last 2 games the same matchups, just changing the time for one of them. So Houston, LA, I'm keeping that game. 8 o'clock Eastern, that's the game we're calling. I'm excited about that. I think it's the perfect slot. I think there's a lot of interest in those 2 teams, a lot of interest in the stars in that
power.
game.
Yeah,
a lot of star power in that game. You could get this awesome performance late where you get Durant and LeBron kind of going at it. Luka will obviously be involved in that. That to me is where it's supposed to be. The 8 o'clock game, watching that. So I'm not changing that at all. And then I'll just finish up. So that means the late game is the same matchup as they have currently, but instead of 5:00 Eastern, I'm putting Dallas Golden State at the end of the night.
Okay.
And
so you actually like that matchup?
No, I don't like that matchup. But who would you replace it with?
I will say that I had the same problem you did, and I was kind of curious if you would come up with the same issue,
So
which is
the thing. Honestly, man, I'm not like super in love with watching the Warriors either.
I know.
The Mavericks, listen, man, they're what, 11-19, whatever they're like, okay, they got Cooper Flagg. I like watching Cooper Flagg, but neither one of those teams are like kind of like right now the way they're playing. But here's the thing. Are you really willing to take Steph Curry out of the mix? No. Yeah. I'm not. So I thought about it. Do I get one of those teams I talked about, like Boston or Philly? But you're going to have one of those teams like travel across the country to play each other on Christmas Day? I don't think so.
Yeah, you're not going to do the East. I mean, it honestly is a reason to try to get an Eastern Conference game in earlier in the day so that you can cut out one of these
that's
ones.
What I thought about, maybe Boston, Philly doing the 2:30 game or the noon, and then Detroit Knicks. But then who would you have taken out? So Dallas would have been clearly one of the two. But then one more team would have been Golden State. Had to be.
This is what's tough is when I made mine, I went with Pistons Knicks. I changed and put Rockets Suns, but it was because of the same reason.
The Suns in there, interesting. Okay.
Well, you got the Kevin Durant, Dylan Brooks storyline. It's a little rivalry. Suns have been surprising, so I think that there's something there, especially if you bring Kevin Durant back to Phoenix. I thought it would have been fun it's good to have a little animosity, a little like uneasiness in the building. But I had the same problem you had. So then I went with Wolves Nuggets, which I think is a great game. Thunder Spurs is the marquee game of the night. And then I put Lakers Warriors instead. And I just did, for the exact same reason as I was trying to fill this out, I didn't think there was a perfect option. Lakers Warriors have just been on TV so much that they give you a classic. Steph and LeBron give you a classic. Although I will say this, did you see LeBron's comments? He's had some weird ones lately, Legs. And this last one was him talking about playing on Christmas. And he's like, to be honest, I'd rather not be playing. He's never said this before. And his almost like lack of enthusiasm for the moment, it seems odd.
Yeah, I agree with that, man. I agree. Well, listen, you've been around that long. It probably is going to lose its luster a little bit, man. There's other things on your mind, maybe a little bit. So it's maybe not that shocking. Actually, and there's another article on ESPN.com I encourage people to read today talking about, it's just a bunch of dudes interviewed, coaches, players, about playing on Christmas. Stories and like just their thoughts on it in general. Some guys saying they hate it. Like, some guys love it. Like it's worth the read because there is a lot. It's one of the things that kind of comes with the NBA season. Holidays, man. Like Christmas is always a problem, obviously. Father's Day has always been that one. Like, I'm always on the road for Father's Day because it's right in the middle of the NBA Finals typically. That always plays into it. Some of the stuff on my bucket list of things I want to do, like the Masters and the Kentucky Derby, that's tough, man. That's April and May, the tough time of the year to get away to go to that stuff. So it's part of the job. And as a player, I never played on Christmas Day, but I've worked a lot of Christmas days, and I don't mind it, man. It stinks I'm going to be away from my family that day, but I haven't called a game since Thanksgiving Eve. I can't wait to call another game. So I'm really looking forward to this, and I'll be traveling out there tomorrow on Christmas Eve, late in the day. I don't arrive on the West Coast till like midnight.
Man, that's kind of a crazy travel schedule. Are you doing Christmas tonight then, or is that what you're
So what we're going to do, because we got in my house, we have a 4-year-old. So we are going to, tomorrow morning, he's going to wake up as if it's Christmas. So we're telling him tonight when he goes to bed, hey, Santa's coming. So he's going to wake up. We're going to open up. So I'll have until we're all going to go to dinner as a family around 3. So at like 2:30, I'll be able to hang out with him until like 2:30 till we leave to go to dinner. And then I'm going right from dinner to the airport.
Well, there you go, man. Legs always doing all the hard work to make sure that we're entertained, including prepping for this show. We do have Christmas coming up, though, everybody. I hope you settle in. Hug your family extra tight. Be in good spirits. And we're going to be back on Friday with Jason Timpf recapping all 5 games. That'll be Friday's show. We're just going to be looking at that slate of games and all the storylines. And then, of course, Legs and I rounding out the year, the 2025, the following week, as the NBA season gets in full swing. We appreciate everybody tuning in. Make sure you hit that like button. We'll see you Friday.
We all silly like the mayor.